I've been asked a few times if Rylee would have done anything different or if I would have done anything different. And the honest answer is Rylee would have done the same thing 100 times over, without question. And I have no regrets. I would have encouraged him 1,000 times over. Hi, I'm Jim McCollum. I'm Lance Corporal Rylee James McCollum's father. There were so many facets to who he was. He was a kind, caring, loving, just beautiful kid, but you had to be inside his circle to know that. On the outside, he was a wrestler from about the time he was 4 years old. Very abrasive. You'd think he was mean, but no, he was an outstanding kid. He was all boy growing up, and his older sisters made sure that they tortured the heck out of him. So
he was quite a turd sometimes, but he was up for anything, any adventure, any dress up, makeup, whatever we wanted to torture him with, he was always down for, and secretly enjoyed most of it.
One time he would take like soft winter gloves and cut all the fingers off of them, and so they'd be coming down like halfway down his fingers, and he'd like sit outside wrestling tournaments begging for change.
He got along with adults more than he got along with kids his own age for a long time. He was so smart, and it got him into a lot of trouble. He always knew what to say to get out of trouble.
I was getting phone calls constantly about, hey, Rylee's not at school today. Hey, Rylee was late for school today. And you just could never be, you could get mad at him, but you couldn't stay mad at him. He always had a way to make you smile. Watching him play video games, of all things, but he'd play war games on a PlayStation. And, it used to bother me that he spent so much time playing the games, but he absorbed everything from them, and he actually learned a lot of history. He knew every war, every battle, every gun, every skirmish we ever had, who the presidents were. That's one of my favorite memories of him, is just looking back how engaged he was, and just how it all intertwines and put him to the place where he was when he died. And on his 18th birthday, I got a phone call, hey Dad, I need you to come to town and to sign some papers, I'm enlisting. This was before he graduated. It's like, absolutely, I dropped everything, and pretty proud moment for me.
He wanted to do it since he was 3-4 years old, and he talked about it his whole life.
We were just so proud. We knew that's what he wanted to do.
We were all more shocked that he showed up to school that day.
Yeah, of course he did.
He shared a lot. I didn't think he'd write as much as he did, but he wrote a lot of letters home. And wow, after graduation, when we went out, Royce and I went out to his graduation, and you could just see there was the chest was out, chin was up. There was a swagger, for lack of better words. He accomplished something that he wanted to do, which he always found a way to do through wrestling and everything. But this one, I think, really mattered to him. And honestly, from boot camp graduation, when we went to MCRD, to the last picture we have of him and the last conversation we had with him, it was boy to man in that short period of time. He definitely matured and became who he was going to be. I think the last conversation I had with Rylee, he was still in Jordan at the time, and it was just after the bombing of Israel. I really don't remember the depth of the conversation. A couple weeks, might have been 3 weeks before they went to Afghanistan, his phone had broken, and so the communication just wasn't there. But he would get on and he'd chat with Gigi, and I'd know he was okay because that little green dot by his name was there. It's like, all right, he's good. I didn't need to talk to him. I knew he was fine, and I'd think about him. But one regret that I do have is there were 2 other times the girls got on a phone call with him, but I was at work, and it's like, I'll catch him next time. Well, there was never a next time.
I actually called him. Sorry. My dad always talks about that green dot on Facebook, and I was at work, and I think she had shot me a message or something, and then I saw the green dot by his name, so I called him. He had broke his phone, so it was either somebody else's phone, or he did have a computer that he could video chat over Facebook with us every once in a while. So I chatted with him for like 10 minutes, just kind of BSing and telling him I miss him and I love him. And was like, oh shoot, Rylee, like, I have you on the phone, we should probably call Royce and Dad. So we hung up, and then we called on our family group so that they could jump on, and Dad was at work. And I mean, you would never know it was going to be your last conversation.
I should have stopped working. You know, perspective, what's more important? Hindsight, man, I should have answered those calls. They were already in Afghanistan before we got notice that they were there. They had already been there, I believe, at least 3 days when we found out that they were there. Yeah, it was just something in the back of your head, let you know this is not going to turn out good. You could just seeing it all unfold and what was happening and how many Afghanis were trying to get out of Kabul, and the just absolute train wreck of, you know, people falling off of the planes and trying, you know, doing anything. Then you start to get a grasp of how desperate the situation was, leading right up to the day of the explosion.
I got a call from my friend, and her husband's in the Navy. And she was like, Royce, how are you doing today? And I was like, man, actually, I was like, I'm having a really rough morning. And I was just complaining about stuff. And she goes, okay, well, how's Rylee? Like, what about Rylee? And I just started crying immediately. And I said, what about Rylee? And that's how I found out about the bombing. I hadn't heard about it yet. And she told me what had happened. And I knew, and I called Dad and Cheyenne, and I told them what happened. You know,
sometimes as you're going through life, you wonder, you know, the ups and downs and the, you know, button heads and everything. You wonder if you're doing the right thing, or should I have done something different? But now as I reflect, it's like, wow, you know, he was really engaged, and he wanted me to be proud of him. I hope he knows that I was proud of him. That's one of the things that I wish I would have said 1,000 times to him. Yeah, honestly, after he died, that's one of the things that haunted me the most was, God, I hope he knows how proud I am of him. Rylee's a little girl, Levi Rylee Rose. She was born 18 days after Rylee died. She is the most beautiful little girl. I can look at her and I see Rylee the boy, and I see Rylee the man in that little girl. It is just fascinating. He was so excited to be a father. When he was in Jordan, he bought a little tiger, and Rylee would sleep with it while he was in Jordan every night, and he took a rash and a crap for sleeping with a stuffed animal, but it meant something to him, and that little tiger made it home with his stuff. So Levi's got that tiger that Rylee got for her. When we talked to Levi about Rylee, and I hope Gigi does the same, openly, honestly, almost as if he's still here. I want her to know who her dad was, good, bad, and otherwise. The funny stories, what a great man he was, what a great father he was going to be.
I think being around us is the most she'll get out of Rylee, because he obviously grew up with us and became who he was, living with us.
Being able to just tell those silly stories about him and how funny he was and how smart he was, and
what a turd he was sometimes. Yeah. And I mean, I think she needs to know everything and how he became the man he did.
The only thing I can say about, you know, all 13 kids, my son included, and especially for me, it's my son, but all 13 is, for the rest of my life, I'm going to make sure they're not forgotten. Let the world remember they weren't just Marines and you know, Army and Navy. They were all young kids, absolutely beautiful people, and their stories need to be shared.